So what I thought I'd do is, it's not a formal training session. It was more just to answer people's questions and just show people around. And I know you'll have questions, Peter. So I'll go through a few big picture things because I know that Neil wants to catch up on the recording and a few other people do. So firstly, just what is ECAMM? Well, ECAMM is really production software for doing professional production and then send it out as a live stream. You can do live streams straight to Facebook, YouTube, etc. But the other thing that's really cool for as well is you can record with it. It's video recording, so you don't have to go live. You can just hit the record button and record to your laptop. And Peter, I have answered your questions. I don't know if you saw the email. I did that in ECAMM about an hour or so, an hour and a half ago. Just hit the record button, made a video, and I've sent you a link to it in Dropbox. So fingers crossed that worked okay.
I've seen the link. I've seen the link, but I haven't downloaded it yet. But I will. Thank you very much indeed.
It's here. It should be ready to download, and hope I did it okay, because sometimes I forget to hit this unmute button. But I think it recorded okay. So anyway, so that's what ECAMM's all about. It is Mac only, and so it's not for. So I tend to find a lot of people in the Value Price Academy are PC users, so they have to go for something like vMix. But ECAMM is the best. Now, I'm sure you've done this already, Peter, but one thing I always recommend to people is go for the Pro version because there are two essential features that really you only get with the Pro version and that you need. And that is virtual camera and virtual mic. So it's the virtual camera and the virtual mic that enable you to use your output from ECAMM into systems like Zoom. I'm assuming, Peter, you've got that, have you, the Pro version?
Yes, indeed, and I'm using the ECAMM out into exactly as you've said, which is why I've got my name on the screen, the board around, and all the rest of it.
Yep, I can see that out of the corner of my eye. Yep,
Yeah.
okay. So I've got some things I can run through. I've got some notes down here where I could do a quick tour of the settings and also talk a bit about profiles, scenes. I can switch across, and I will switch across later. Let me just make sure I use the right screen. I can switch across to demo mode, so I will walk through the way that I set things up. I can talk about how to create scenes and how to do countdown timers. We can look at doing different picture-in-picture. We can talk about guests. We can talk about green screen. For example, I could show you and talk about how you can write onto the screen, which is quite cool, quite fun stuff to do. It looks a little bit like, if you just hang on a second, I think I set this up earlier. Let me just remind myself where I need to press. Is it there? No, it's not. There we go. Yes. So, no, it wasn't that one actually. I set up another one somewhere. Anyway, so I've set up the wrong one here. I'll come back to that. I know what I need to do. I need to change something. I set up the wrong scene. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I can cover and talk about. It's entirely up to you. So I know Emily's got some questions for me, and you probably have as well, Peter. Do you want to go first with a question, Peter?
Sure. The one thing I haven't really got to grips with, Mark, is this idea about the different profiles. I've had a good play with some of the things you've said and writing on the wall, which is crazy, isn't it? And I actually did it I'd actually, at home, there was a picture on the wall behind me. And so I actually set my iPad up as the green screen and set it against that picture. So I was actually writing in the picture frame behind me. So cool. Just for a bit of a laugh. So I've got some of it sorted, but I haven't been into profiles. But I understand you can have different profiles, but I don't quite know what to do and how to export some of the stuff I've already got, or to set it up a new profile. What do you do?
Yeah, so the profiles is new. It came out, I think, earlier on this year, 2022. So if I just click across to demo mode, you can lay out your screen how you want with the windows. It's quite one of the things that I like about this is you can, on the right hand side of where you can see my image, you can toggle on and off each of the windows and lay them out how you want on the screen. And the scenes window, this one here, is probably the most important one. So these are all the scenes that you set up. And so each scene is, so what you can see, here now. This is a scene. Another scene might be, I haven't set all these up, but you can change to different scenes, different things. They're scenes. And if I just go back to here, and within that, you can organize them into folders, just like you'd expect. And then you can collapse the folders and sort things out. But what I used to find is that can soon get really, really messy if you're running lots of different types of shows, live streams, and so on. And so I've got a number of different types of training that I do. I have ones where I go live stream for anybody. And if it's a live stream, I want my VPA branding. If I'm doing a session for a training session for my academy members, I might want to have a slightly different layout. I might want to have some different scenes set up. And I used to find it just got a bit messy. It had a whole bunch of different stuff. I have different countdown timers for different types of things. So they brought in profiles. Profiles, it enables you, and it's in the top profiles. What you can do is with profiles, you can set up different sets of scenes. And there's an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage of doing that is it's particularly advantageous if you are using different branding for different types of things that you do. So if I was doing something where I want Value Pricing Academy branding, I could have it set up so that I always, for example, have my VPA logo appearing in the top right of any scene I create. And if I wanted to have a different theme, different color scheme and so on, I could then set up a different one, a different profile for that. So that's the advantage of profiles. And just so let me just tell you about the ones I've got, if you'll let me, because I can't remember. So I have one for my Value Pricing Academy. I have one for what I'm doing right now called the Online Live Academy. I have one for live streaming, different branding. And I also have one for personal, because if I'm doing my family Zoom calls and want to show people my photographs, I've got a scene set up for doing that, but it's got some fun backgrounds and stuff. So profiles allows you to do different layouts, different branding. The downside to it, and just to be aware of, is that when you go live, like we are right now, when you're live, you cannot switch profiles. You're locked into that particular profile. You can't. So if I was doing, if I'm doing a training session right now, I can't go into my different profile and show it to you. I guess really if you're going to have all of your training with one set of branding, there's probably no need to have profiles. But if you are going to have different branding and so on, then I think it's nice to have. For me, it keeps it easy. If I'm doing a personal Zoom call and I just want to have some fun stuff set up, I just go into that. It saves me having a complex folder structure. Right, let me just let in Teresa. And the other thing that if you do use profiles that you could then do. Hi there, Terry. We have started, but hopefully you'll catch up. I'm just answering questions. Hope you're well. I know you're on holiday right now. So Peter was just asking me what is profiles for, and the other thing, and I have hit the record button, Terry. So if you want to know what profiles are, you can catch up very easily. The other thing that you can do is if you're using a Stream Deck, which I am, with a Stream Deck, you can also have profiles with different sets of buttons and keys laid out. And so what I do is I have a Stream Deck profile that matches the profile that I'm using. So if you go down the route of profiles, I just find that a nice way of organizing things, that if I'm doing a live stream, as well as different profiles, I've got a different set of buttons to match as well on my Stream Deck. That was quite a long answer, Peter. Did that answer it?
Yes, it absolutely does. I think I'm going to wait until, therefore, my scenes and the folders I've got in the scenes are getting too complex. And if I have a good edit, I might get rid of that. But if not, I like the idea of having a personal one that would be separate. And I've set up in my Stream Deck, I've set it up with different things that I do. So for the the various things I do. So I've got those sorted into different ones with the different buttons on that match to the things in the scenes.
Yep. And one of the things that, so as well as the scenes, which we've already looked at, you've got the overlays tab. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but with overlays, you have the overlays is what people see. It's whether you want any text on the screen, it's the camera, and so on, becomes an overlay. And so if we look at the bottom, we've got a whole bunch of symbols here. So an overlay could be an image, it could be a camera, it could be a countdown timer, it could be text, and you can have multiple things all building up. But you also have in overlays, you've got 3 sections. I don't know how well you can see it, but you've got showing all scenes, showing current scene, and show in the background. So what that means is if I'm just going to move that to there for a second, you can drag things. So right now my screen's gone blue because I've just got the background in the scene. If I move it to the show in background, that means whenever I create a scene in this profile, that background by default will be there all the time. And likewise, you can have it show in all scenes. The top category is things that will show on all of your scenes. So I'm just going to, let me give you an example that will make more sense. If I just find my Finder, okay, I've lost Finder right now. It's here somewhere. Where have I hidden it? It's buried. I might have to come. I can't find it. Anyway, if, for example, you have a logo that you want in the top right, if you drag it onto a scene and in the overlays tab, move it into show in all scenes, that means every scene that you show will always have consistently your logo in the top right. And that's why if you like having your logo on the screen, you might have different profiles if you want different logos, for example. Okay, and
Mark,
so
what's the difference between showing background and showing all scenes?
That's a so showing the background, I think, means it sits in the background. So
the overlay, yeah.
So that means that if I let me just if I lock this, no, so I think I should be able to let me try different, go to a different scene for a second. Yeah, so this particular one, I've got a different scene because I was a different background. Let me just move that out the way. So I've got a funky background here, which is, it's here in my scene. If I was to hide that, which is the eye icon, why have I got that there? Okay, sometimes I mess around my scenes and it's probably better to build them up from scratch. Let me just remind me of the question, Peter. I think there's a better way to show you this.
Right, okay. What's the difference between showing background and showing all scenes?
Yeah, so if let me start again. If I go back to I'm just going to move, if I move back to my scenes, and I'm going to hit the plus button and add a brand new scene.
Yep.
And my brand new scene has by default got the background already set up because it's in the show in the background. That will always appear. I can now add a camera. Which one's camera? Okay, which will default to that, which I can lay anywhere I want. And if instead, if I move the background into the current scene and change the order, and the background is now sitting on top of my camera, okay, gotcha. Which is so I either need to move the background below the camera, because think of in the section that says showing current scenes, you can have multiple stuff, but it's like transparent overlays. They would sit on top of each other. So you have to be careful which order you have things in. And so I've got the background behind. But if I now create another brand new scene, let's see if this works. This brand new scene doesn't have the background by default because I don't have now backgrounds in showing background. I would now need to, if I wanted a background to this scene I'm creating, I would need to drag in a background.
Gotcha.
Yeah? So I've got a brand new scene. There's nothing there to start with. But if I go back to where I was, what was the last one I had? I've lost it. Let me go back to, I lost it. I don't know what scene I was on. Let me click on here. Will that help me? I've lost my background. Lost my background. Where'd it go? Yes. Is that it? No. No. There we go. It was that scene there. So if I drag this back to showing the background, that's a different one this time. Why can't I do that? There we go. Oh, this is that scene that's got this other background I can't get rid of. But if I now go and create because I put background in showing backgrounds, if I create a brand new scene, I've now got this one as my default. Yeah. So showing the background is if you want to have a default background every time you create a brand new scene.
Gotcha. So if I've got this dark blue that's around the outside of mine here, yeah. So that's just a piece of solid blue. So if I put that in showing background, where I've put three groups, I've put a backgrounds group and a borders group. So if I drag that and stuck it in the backgrounds group, I could then, that would be by default in the background.
Correct.
When I do a new scene.
Yes. So when you first create the scene, let me hide that. When you first create a scene by default, you just got a blank sheet of paper.
Yes.
A blank paper, and therefore you would then need to drag into it the background, and I could just drag this background in. If you now want that background to be always the default background when you create new scenes, then you take the element and you drag it down to here. In a similar way, and I can't find my Finder window at the moment, it's disappeared, but if you wanted your logo, you would drag your logo onto here somewhere. It would by default start off as showing current scene, but if you drag your logo into the top section, showing all scenes, every time you create a new scene, you'll also have your logo, in that case, in the foreground.
So it comes back to my question mark. What's the difference between showing background other than the sense of the layers that you talked about, or showing all scenes? Because if I drag it into the background and showing all scenes, when I start a new scene, presumably that background will show. I
think I'm right in saying, I don't tend to use the background very often, so okay. I might be wrong on this, but my understanding is that if you have something as showing background, it will be in the background by default. So I can now add a camera to this. I can add a text box. Whereas if you've got something in showing all scenes, let me just turn something on, then that will sit on top.
Got it.
So I believe it's just simply, if it's showing all scenes like your logo, it will always be, it's on top of the camera I set up.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I might be wrong, but I kind of wonder whether showing all scenes should say showing foreground.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah. And while I'm on that, one of the things that if you do live streams, one of the things that I really like about live streams is one of your options is you can have a chat window, the comments and reactions. It's the one with it says show hide comments and reactions. So if I was live right now to YouTube, Facebook, and somebody commented in those places, the chat feed would appear here on my right. I normally have this set up on a different screen, but this would show the feed, and it shows all the comments in one place from all the places I go live to. And if you click on one of those, like this Teresa Campbell did, you can click on it and it'll come up on your screen. This one's a comment that she made in a live stream. And what you can do is, if you want to do that, which I always do that on live streams, pull up people's comments and share them with everybody. one of the things that you can then do is you can edit the way that these look. So if I go into the pencil icon and drag this over, so when someone puts in a comment, I've got a border with my branding colors yellow, for example. I could change the font size, I could change it italics, non-italics, and so on. So you can play around. But here's the key point. If you want to show people's comments, you cannot edit them until after somebody's made a comment. So you have to go live. When you go live, and I don't fully get this, so because their training is not clear on this, but when you go live and someone makes a comment, when you then go to your overlays tab, just like I've got here, you will see usually the last comment that came up. So once you've got a comment appear in here, you then have the ability to change the layout of that comment. Does that make sense? It's one of the things about ECAMM that I find a little bit confusing, why you have to wait till you've had someone comment and it appears in your overlay showing all scenes. And I think I have a couple here because I was playing around with different layouts. So this was one that I wanted to be shorter, but you can make it longer. You could have your comments appear here. So you can edit it, play with it, change the background, the fonts, whatever, hide it. Next time I go live, the comments will appear just like this. Okay, Terry, you missed the start. So I started off just by saying that I purposely am not doing a formal presentation on this and teaching. It's a Q&A. So please feel free, Terry, to ask me whatever questions you've got about ECAMM.
Sure, as long as my internet connection stays okay, because I'm tethered to my phone. The biggest challenge I'm having with ECAMM is when I have a PowerPoint presentation, and you'd actually tried to help me with this, Mark. On my slides, I have point form notes of the things that I want to make sure I talk about. So I need to be able to see that, just so it's like, oh, right, I'm going to talk about this, 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 and this. My other screen has the presentation slides showing, but I also want to be able to see the comments that people are making. Now, when you share screen in Zoom, your chat window comes up as a nice little box that you can move around. So I can always, when I share screen, I can grab that box and put it on my screen so I can talk to people and answer their questions. With ECAMM, I'm not sharing my screen. My profile has the screen share already in it. So what happens is I can't see the chat. So what ends up happening is I have 3 screens. My chat has to be on another window. And whenever I want to read them, I'm having to look way over the other side. So you had suggested in sharing it, not sharing it, but choosing the window that's being shown as the slides, which I did, but the problem is the slides won't change. So I've stopped using it because I'm talking, I've got my slides showing, and I've got my point form notes as to the things I want to make sure I talk about. Now my chat window has to be on a 3rd screen, and I'm having to like wrench my neck to look at it. And everybody's looking at my ear instead of at my face. So I was trying to find a way to get that chat to be on the main screen with my point form topic notes. And on the other screen is the slides that everybody who's there is seeing. So that's the challenge I'm having. And I'm sure there's a way around it. I just haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether I'll be much help because, and it's always a challenge knowing where to place things so that you're not having to feel like you're looking too far away. So I always have my chat window just slightly to the left of the camera, so my eyes just have to go left a little bit. That's where I have that. And then
Mark, I might have a bit of a solution.
Way over to the left.
Okay.
Mark, I might have a bit of a solution there. This is where I've tried with it, and if this would help, is I use Keynote rather than PowerPoint. What I do is, instead of playing the slides, I select, and I only learnt this a few weeks ago, play in window.
Yeah.
So rather than it take over the other screen, it plays in a small window, and then I get ECAMM to recognize that window by saying, what do you want to appear in here? The current application, and I select Keynote. And so that then plays in that window, which gives me the rest of the screen to put anything on it. So rather than it taking over the whole screen, it only takes over a bit of the screen.
Yes, and you can do that in PowerPoint as well. I thought I showed you that. Ted, did I not show
Yeah,
you
and
that?
you did, and I tried it, but what happens is this, as I'm going through my slides that have my point form notes on it, that
Oh.
one doesn't change.
Sorry, I'm with you. Okay, so you've got, yes, you've got notes underneath the slides.
Yeah, just like talk about these 5 things, right? So that I don't get off topic and forget to cover a whole thing or go off on a tangent. So I have like some little points that I refer to. So that's the problem, is I've got that in front of me. My other screen is shared. And because I'm not sharing screen with ECAMM, the chat window stays in the Zoom window, which has to be on another screen. Whereas if I was sharing my screen, the chat window becomes a little box and I can drag it over to the screen I'm on with my point form notes, and they're all looking at the slides and everything I'm sharing over on another screen. So that's the challenge I'm having.
Okay, so I think the simple answer might be to think of a different way of having your prompts. So what I do with presentations is, let me just see if I've got the right button set up. Again, now my ugly face. Well, anyway, so I've now got the PowerPoint pulled up on the screen,
right?
And what I do, because I think it's much easier. I think it's much easier to run things like a PowerPoint on a different computer and have it as a different camera feed. So I do that. So I have a really old laptop. It's a 2013 iMac, my first iMac, first MacBook. It's just underneath my camera, so that I don't look too far away. And I've got it in presentation mode. So if I wanted to, I could have notes. I've never done notes, partly because my eyesight's not good enough to be able to read them. But I do have it in presentation mode. And the reason for that is because then in presentation mode, you know what the next slide's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I can read much of the next slide. And then what I do is I regularly now in sessions, if I need prompts for myself, I have another slide, and if it's a red background, or sometimes it's a different color, but if it's a really bright background slide and I can see that as being the next slide coming up, I know I mustn't show this slide. So I might be talking through this one. I can see at a glance that I've got a red slide next with some notes. And so I would just simply go back to, say, this view, and I can hit the button on my presenter. I can now see, if I want to, the notes on a big slide. That's my prompts. That's how I deal with that.
So having 2 computers. Yeah.
I just find, I mean, if you've got an old old MacBook or something, I think that having them as a separate computer, just for me, it just makes it much easier to then just have a scene that's your main camera, and then separate scene that's your slides, and then sometimes not on this current profile, but I do have on one of my stream decks and profiles, I actually have a whole bunch of different slides where sometimes I might want to show a slide with some detail and it fills a whole screen, and then sometimes I might want to instead have it as a particular picture in picture. And one of the things that I've done is, you might be wondering what's that orange box. I hadn't set this up for this particular session, but I sometimes have some template slides with an orange box that tells me that's going to be full screen, but I'm going to overlay my camera to cover up the orange box. So you can have a picture in picture where you can plan it. If you plan in advance, you can plan it so the content of the slide fits around your picture in picture in the shape that you want, and it looks quite cool. It doesn't now because it's just an orange box, but if I was to put this on, if I created a scene for how I use these particular slides, they do look quite professional. which I can show you if you want me to show you how I build scenes up, I can do that. But I don't want to teach you things that you already know. So I'm just going to go with questions.
I think it's good to go over that because
Yeah.
for one, this is being recorded for other people who might not know how to do that. So I think there's some value, and hey, I always learn something new when you do that.
Okay, so that's going to put me on the spot, but hopefully I can do it fairly quickly.
Well, you don't have to then. That's okay. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I like being tested. It's fine. So if I hit the plus button I'm going to do a brand new scene. And so I've got it set up so there's no background, Peter, because I removed it earlier in the demo from showing backgrounds. So I actually have a range of different backgrounds I use when I build scenes. And I have those backgrounds permanently on my desktop, which means I just need to drag it in and it's pretty quick. It's there straight away. But if I wanted my orange background, I could do that. So just a little quick tip. If you have different backgrounds you use, if you have them as PNGs already on your desktop, you can drag in the one that you want really quickly. So we'll go with an orange one just for a change. I don't use it very often. So that's my background sorted. So the next thing I will do is in the overlays tab that I'm waving about, I would obviously have a camera. And by default, it's my camera. But what I want, I'm going to make it bigger. I actually don't need I don't need a background, but I'll leave it there for now. I probably wouldn't use the background for this, but I would then, having got my camera, on the left is the pencil icon to edit it, and I don't want my camera, I want my laptop. Now, one thing I don't know, if anyone could teach me this, it would be great. I wish you could rename it. It names it by the capture card I'm using. So I've got UHD capture and USB video, and I have no idea which one's which. So it's trial and error. I think it's that one I want. Okay, so this camera. In fact, I will ignore the background. I'll fill the screen for now because I think it's easy for the demo. Okay, so that's now this camera is my laptop is seeing this as the ECAM seeing my laptop as a camera. So this is my slides, and I've created this yellow area because I want to do picture in picture here. So now what I do is over in my overlays tab over here, I will select another camera, the camera icon, which will then put it over the top. And now what I can do is drag it up to here. So it's hiding the orange box. I need to hit the edit button. Make sure that the shape often defaults to wide 16:9. I almost always, with my camera, overwrite it to custom. Unless you know you want it to be 16:9 or a square or something, I usually go for custom because then you can make it whatever shape you want. So I would just make it the shape and perhaps a little bit bigger of that orange area. Then what I might do is choose a border to go around it, not a white one, because that won't work in this case. Where's my colors dog? My colors are on a different screen, so forgive me. Let's just pick my yellow, make it a bit bigger, so I can have a border around it with. I can make some corners. Slow me down if I'm going too fast, by the way. I'm kind of assuming that you know how to do this. The way I've set it up right now, I've got the little bit of the corner of the peeking out, so I just need to make this just a little bit bigger. And there you go. I think that's it now. So I just think that looks a bit cooler than just the normal picture in picture you get, or even worse, zoom, where it puts you somewhere in the corner outside of the slide and you're really small. It allows you to just get it just right. So that's one thing if you might want to think about if you're using slides, is think about in advance where you might want to be for your picture in picture and create a slide template like I've done with that orange box, which then tells you that I know that every time I use those slides, I use this particular scene and it will always put me in that space.
I have a question.
Okay, Emily.
How do you connect your second computer to recognize it as your presentation slides as a separate camera?
Yeah, you need a capture card. So just bear with me a second.
Is that a separate piece of kit that you have to get?
It's a separate piece of kit. This one is the Elgato HD60 S Plus, which is the most expensive one I've got, and I can't get it to work with anything. People swear by it. So out of frustration, I needed to get something set up when I bought this. So I bought the cheapest one I could find on Amazon for about 15 quid, and it works. So these are supposed to be really good. I just can't get it to work for whatever reason. And that's, I think, always the problem with technology, that, you know, some things don't, depends what kit you're using, some things just don't talk to each other. But I've got about 3 or 4 capture cards lying around for different machines. And all they are, Emily, a capture card is, it plugs into a USB port on your computer, and the other end has an HDMI. And that needs to go into your HDMI port on your laptop. So if you don't have an HDMI port on modern laptops, which usually you don't, you'll then need an adapter for your laptop that's got an HDMI port. So when I use my other laptop for doing software demonstrations, I have one of these to give it an HDMI port, and then just plug in my capture card. It's as simple as that. And Emily, if you want, I can give you the names of the different capture cards I've got. I would start with the cheapest one and see if that works, rather than going for the most expensive one and finding it doesn't, which is frustrating.
Mark, just to point out, if I may jump in on that one, what I've been playing with is using my iPad as the external camera, and putting the keynote presentation, because I use Keynote rather than PowerPoint, putting the keynote presentation on my iPad and playing it straight in. And then you don't need a capture card because the Mac automatically recognizes the iPad as an external camera.
Now that's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Peter. I also have here my iPad, and I've got mine going into a capture card, and so I've therefore also got an adapter for my iPad giving me HDMI, because I think you did have to. I think with an iPad at one point you did have to have a capture card.
You don't now. I've just taken my normal power lead and I'm plugging it straight in from the iPad, which is here. I've got my iPad and I just plug it straight in. And then I just select in the box when you hit the little pencil thing, I select the camera as my iPad because it recognizes it as a camera. And then, of course, whatever you're playing on there, you can play as a presentation in a box that you create, etc.
Oh, great.
So of course, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, because then, Terry, you can then see your presenter notes on the next slide.
Yeah. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll give it a shot. Yeah, because I certainly have my iPad too.
Yeah.
Because I know that you can go direct into your iPhone. So this is my iPhone over here that I've just got plugged straight into the computer, and it sees that as a camera. So if you ever want to do a 2-camera shot but can't afford a second camera, use your iPhone. I use that, Peter, when I do, as Terry will know, if I do a session where I'm teaching my audience about my setup, I'll have the iPhone set up simply because I can then put it here and show people what I'm looking at.
Yes, in fact, there's a guy, Michael Fellows, that was on the ECAMM YouTube stuff. And he's created an app. There's a free version called Shoot Webcam. And I think the pro version is about £12 a year or something insignificant. And it's brilliant. And I bought an old iPhone to use for it. And I've just got that plugged straight into my computer. And of course, ECAMM is seeing it as a camera. And the Shoot Cam is amazing.
Okay, well, that's what this is. It's Shoot. I don't think it's Shoot. It's a Shoot. You've got a number of settings where you can choose. I've got it set up for the front-facing camera because my iPhone holder is in the way, so I'm just using the front foot. But you can automatically zoom in, zoom out, and all sorts of cool stuff.
It's great. It's very, because you can go to wide angle and you can put a frame on it so you can be where you want to be, can't you? And Michael's very responsive because I've emailed him a couple of times and he comes back straight away.
Okay. Yeah, great.
So it's called Shoot? It's called
Shoot.
Okay,
if you
on
look
the iPhone, I'm going to look.
Yeah, if you look in the, if you search in the App Store and search Shoot Webcam, it comes up. If you do other shoots, there's all sorts of things called Shoot. But if you search Shoot Webcam, it comes up.
Okay, it's possible I've got a different one. I don't know. I thought it was just plain Shoot on mine, but I don't know.
I can show you. I don't know if you can, yes, you can see my screen. It's that one there, just from where my camera is showing there. Can you see? Just by my fingers, yeah, just there. That's what it looks like. This one, oops, there's my wife. That one there, above the normal camera one.
Above the normal camera. Yeah, I can see it's dark and mine's are dark. It might be the same. Mine might be the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Can you see it's the Shoot? Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. It's brilliant.
What I sometimes do, Peter, as well is, so when I start my sessions, I have a countdown timer. And then what I do is, sometimes when I've got a countdown timer, I'll have a holding slide behind the countdown so people who are here early can see that they're in the right session. If I'm doing my sessions where I'm teaching people how to be good on camera, I sometimes have me behind the countdown timer just getting ready because people seem to like that. But I also sometimes have my iPhone here showing my setting in the background. And then what looks quite cool is, I don't know if you know this, but it's really quick and easy to turn your camera to black and white. It's just one of the settings in the camera tab. So if I go back to setup live, let me just do that quickly. So you've got your camera effects window, which is a really useful one. And if I just go to my iPhone, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but as you scroll down towards the bottom, near the very bottom, you've got camera options, and you can make it black. You can make it black and white. It's not doing that because I have the scene locked. Let me unlock it. There you go. So I have one of those sometimes, just showing my setup from a distance when I've got the countdown time before the show, and it just, I think, just looks a little bit fun. And I think, Peter, you've just done the same thing, haven't you? You've gone black and white from the looks of it, unless it's my eyes.
You just taught me how to do it. Thank you.
Yeah. And that camera effects, let me go back to my camera. That's a really useful tab to have open, because as you've probably seen, it's the zoom and pan's really useful. So it's not on this particular Stream Deck for this profile, but I often have one that's set up. I have a little button that says close up. So it looks like I've got a 2-camera shoot, but all I've got is 2 different scenes of my main camera, but one of them in advance, I've zoomed in like this, and you can reposition it a bit. So that's worth playing around with. Okay, next question. What else can I show you or tell you about?
What do you use to do your countdown timers?
Okay, I bought mine. So when I started learning how to live streaming at the start of 2021, I subscribed to Live Streaming Pros, which is a lady called Luria Petrucci, if I pronounced that right. And one of the things that Luria sells on her website is she sells things like backgrounds. In fact, I think that yellow one I pulled up might have been one that I just bought. But she also sells some countdown timers. So I paid for the countdown timer because they're easy to create yourself. But I just bear me a second. I'm going to play some music in a second. Let me just show you mine. So what that one has is the little colors going round, and it's a transparent one. So you can see in the background, you might have noticed that was the black and white version of my. But basically, what I bought was a file that had that scrolling color wheel, which makes it interesting. But to be honest, you don't need to do that. You can create countdown timers really, really easy in ECAMM. So you may have noticed, Terry, when we run our online conferences, what we do is we play a 10-minute countdown, which is a video that my daughter Gabby pulls together in Camtasia that basically shows a series of designs with some messages for people, instructions like, please tell me where you're from and stuff like that. But then after 5 or 10 seconds of that, it switches to a little testimonial video. And then someone will be telling a testimonial. So when I'm running my online conferences, people who are there earlier can hear about other successful people. Terry, you're obviously one of the people that are often on those little videos. So she creates as a video, but just like my PowerPoint, she creates a space for the countdown timer so that I can change that. And then you can build it really easy in a scene. So if I just hit the plus button, to create a countdown timer is really easy. You might want to drag an image. So I'm going to just, for now, for simplicity, just drag this. And then you go to the overlays tab again. So the overlays and the scenes, the two tabs you'll use most, the two windows, and it's the one that's got 321. You just click on that. What have I done? Hang on, I think I've changed something. Yeah, so it then opens up this window where you specify how long is the countdown timer. Let's say 10 minutes. There's all sorts of settings. You can also change the font size, the colors of your countdown timer. If I click add, you can now see it's here. I can move it around. I can make it bigger. You could add, so I can have the countdown there, let's say. I could then go and add some text. So if I hit the text overlay, I might want to say show starts in, and I'll just leave it the same color for now. And I can drag that to here, make it a bit bigger. And so every time I now run this scene, it will start counting from, in this case, 10 minutes down. And then once it's finished, you've got a number of settings as to what happens next. And you can set it so that when the countdown's finished, it automatically goes to the next scene. And you just make the next scene being your camera. So countdowns are really easy to set up. And you can do it yourself, quite fancy stuff if you've got some skills with Canva and so on. Or if you want to go even more flashy still, you could buy something like I did from Live Streaming Pros. What else can I help you with?
I have a very basic question. But how do you connect it with Zoom so that like Peter's got it at the minute, he's got his on Zoom?
Okay, great question, Emily. So at the outset, I said, and I think you might have missed this, Terry, I would always recommend when anybody gets ECAMM, go for the Pro version, the most expensive, because it's only the Pro version that gives you virtual camera and virtual mic. Without that, you can use it to live stream, but if you want to use it with something like Zoom, then that's what a virtual camera is it's basically anything that this software is showing that you see right now. If you want that to go into Zoom as if it's your webcam, that's what a virtual webcam is. So when you're using ECAMM and you set up Zoom, so I'm in Zoom, just let me look across the Zoom right now. If you go into the audio settings, sorry, no, the video settings, I've clicked on audio by mistake. If in Zoom you go into video settings, God, windows open up everywhere. The first thing you'll get is camera with a drop down. And I've got all sorts of things listed here. So I've got my camera listed as a camera, but you'll also see once you're using ECAMM, it should say ECAMM Live Virtual Cam. And that's the one you want to select. If you tell Zoom that your camera, your webcam is ECAMM Live Virtual Cam, it will treat whatever you're showing on ECAMM, all those scenes, as your webcam.
So I have to
And in the
set
same way, in
first.
audio setting, if you go into audio settings and you look at microphone, and again, I have loads set up, my cameras and microphone and so on, you want the ECAMM Live Virtual Mic. Because the reason you want that is that if you don't need that if all you're doing is talking, but if you have got set up scenes where you're playing other audio sources like music, countdown music, sound effects, you want all those audio sources that's inside ECAMM to go into Zoom so people can hear all those other things as well. So that's why you need to have your microphone set as ECAMM Live Virtual Mic. If I just set it up as my Rode, you'd hear me perfectly fine in Zoom, but you wouldn't hear any of the sound effects and countdown music and so on. Does that make sense?
It was you showing me that, Mark, that persuaded me to go and get ECAMM straight away, because you did what you were doing, and with the line around your picture and picture in picture, and I went, wow, this for Zoom, and you said you could use it in Zoom, and when I realised that was only in the Pro version, which is it's pennies for what it actually is. It's amazing. I just went straight away, and people I've shown it to, they've started doing it as well. So
it's about $380 for the year, which I think is crazy cheap for the level of professionalism it gives you.
Absolutely right. Somebody was telling me the other day, you just, once you start to get into this community, you learn all sorts of different things from different people, don't you? And I was learning that on Zoom, one of the challenges with Zoom is that Zoom automatically turns down the resolution of whatever is the output that you're putting through. So you can have the most amazing picture going into Zoom, but the person on the other end isn't seeing anything like it because Zoom turns down the resolution. Which is one of the reasons to click HD in the system, right? But you can also click that in your settings in zoom.us. But then somebody else shared this idea with me, and they said, if you want the best possible picture on Zoom, then don't share your camera, share your screen, because Zoom doesn't turn down the resolution on screen share because people may have fine detail on it. So what?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So I had, it was when demand for Zoom exploded at the start of lockdown, they started making everybody 720p by default. And I was getting really frustrated because we paid for Zoom and we were pushing things through ECAMM, like software demonstrations, and people were saying your software's blurry. And I think, well, it's not, it's perfectly fine at my end. And we did learn that, yes, if you use they want you using their screen share. But the solution to that is, you've got to have a paid account for Zoom. And secondly, you have to remember to tick the HD box. And I think back then we had to actually request it. Still, you still have to go to Zoom's support and say, we want HD turned on.
Yes.
If once it's turned on, I'm not sure that screen share is any better. I think it's the same. It should be the same.
I'm told it's better, and that by Alex, who's the techie guy who does all that stuff on ECAMM. And what he suggested as well was you can buy off Amazon a virtual screen, they come in a pack for £8 and there's 3 of them. So it's really expensive. And you plug it in and it becomes a virtual screen. And so you put your ECAMM out on that virtual screen and you share that in Zoom and you get the best possible resolution that Zoom can give you.
Okay. Oh, I've learned something then.
Well, I say I learned this like 2 weeks ago. It's like, I thought, wow, what a good idea, so I got one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not doing it at the moment. I'm just sharing my ECAMM stuff, But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I might have to look into that. It might be useful, Peter, if you got a link to that. What was it you get on Amazon? What was it called?
I'll show it you. It's a virtual. I'll see if I can find it. It won't be a moment. Yeah, I've got it here. That's just the lead. It's that.
Yep.
Right, and you just plug it into an HDMI socket, right? Then plug that inside the computer, right? And then that lights up purple, and it just is then a virtual display, because that's what you search, virtual display. And they come 3 in a pack for £8.
Okay. Intrigued.
I know. I was like, what? This is your fault. I've spent more money since you told me about. But thank you, Mark. It's been absolutely a great journey so far, and I'm still on the journey. That's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. We've been going an hour. Anything else you want to know?
I'm good. Thank you so much. Just brilliant.
Okay.
Me too. That's great.
Well,
It's awesome. I'm going to try the iPad thing.
Okay.
If I can use that instead of a computer, we'll see how that goes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you, Emily?
Thanks so much.
I'm still struggling, but I think I've got a million questions, so I just need to play a lot more with it. I can't get my camera to go in the Zoom. I can't get it to do it, but
Okay. Well, you and I can talk about that, and we'll get that fixed.
I'll work it out.
You do have to have the pro version, because I know when I first bought ECAMM, I couldn't do it either. And then I reached out to Mark, and yeah, I had to get the pro one. And then as soon as I did that, when I went into Zoom, it was there as an option that you could choose it.
Yeah, but it's more than that. Hang on a second, because sometimes you take things for granted when you've had it for a while. I think you have to go to the menu at the top and look for output.
Yeah.
And if you scroll down, you'll see each of virtual cam and virtual mic. You need to make sure they're ticked as on. It may be that they're off by default.
No, I've done that. I've turned them on, but I don't have the option in Zoom. I have the audio option. I can turn my ECAMM Live virtual mic on, but I can't turn my camera to ECAMM. I wonder if I just have to log out and in again.
Yeah, try that. If you're still having problems, Emily, you and I can jump on a call.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll play around with it in my own time.
Yeah. Thanks for the link, Peter, the chat box.
Just put the link in.
Yeah, thank you. Emily, can you grab that link and put it somewhere and perhaps just have a look at it sometime? Have a play with that. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, thanks for coming on, Peter. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you very much indeed, Mark. Really appreciate it. Terry, lovely to meet you. Emily, likewise. And thank you very much indeed for your time.
If you think of any more questions, just fire me an email. Happy to answer anytime.
I will.
Thanks so
indeed.
much. I really appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation, Terry.
Thank you. I'm sitting at my trailer.
See you guys. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.